The heavy steel door swings gently on its hinges. Inside the enclosure, Kumba is gone. The morning sun filters through the trees, casting long shadows across the empty habitat. His food sits untouched. And the lock? Perfectly intact. Zookeeper Emily freezes as she stares at the open gate. Her heart pounds. Not again. She radios the team, her voice tight with concern. He's out, for the third time. Within minutes, staff gather, scanning the area. Cameras show nothing unusual until they rewind the footage. On screen, Kumba appears under the moonlight, calm and calculated. The massive gorilla reaches for the latch with his thick fingers, manipulating it with stunning precision. Click. The door eases open without resistance. No panic, no struggle. He simply steps out, glancing once behind him before vanishing into the night. "How is that even possible?" one of the junior keepers whispers. Emily exhales slowly, mind racing. That lock is designed for human hands, but somehow he understands it. Night after night, the pattern repeats. No broken fences, no alarms triggered, only quiet, deliberate escapes under cover of darkness. And every morning, like clockwork, Kumba returns before sunrise, always calm, always unharmed. The zoo director grows increasingly concerned. What if one night he doesn't come back, he warns. Discussions intensify behind closed doors, extra locks, motion sensors, even talk of sedation. But Emily hesitates. There's something different about this, something intentional. She studies hours of security footage, captivated by Kumba's behavior. Each escape begins the same way, a few minutes of pacing, followed by focused attention on the latch. His movements aren't frantic, they're deliberate, as though driven by purpose, not instinct. The other animals remain undisturbed. Even the smaller primates seem oblivious. Kumba moves like a shadow, his massive frame barely making a sound. He navigates through service corridors and unlit paths with eerie familiarity. No aggression, no destruction, only quiet determination. Word spreads quickly among the staff. Whispers fill the break room. Why isn't he trying to leave the zoo entirely? Where is he going? What's he looking for? Emily can't shake the gnawing feeling in her gut. She knows Kumba isn't acting like an animal testing boundaries. He's looking for something, or someone. Late one evening, as storm clouds roll in, Emily makes a decision. She installs a hidden tracker on Kumba's collar. "I need to know," she whispers to herself. The rain taps softly against the enclosure roof as Kumba glances up at the sky, almost sensing the eyes upon him. Midnight arrives. The tracker pings. On the monitor, a blinking dot moves slowly, predictably, toward a familiar path, one that leads away from the enclosures and toward the staff quarters. Emily leans in closer, her pulse quickening. Kumba is not lost. He knows exactly where he's going. The next morning, Emily reviews the data. The tracker's path is clear. Every night, Kumba takes the same route, never straying. He slips past the zoo perimeter, disappearing into dense trees, and always, he returns before dawn. The zoo board grows uneasy. "He's leaving zoo property," the director says, voice tight. This could turn into a disaster. But Emily urges patience. He's not running away. He's going somewhere specific. They expand the surveillance. New cameras are installed along his route, high in the trees, hidden behind foliage. Emily and her small team monitor every movement, piecing together the mystery. Night falls again. On the monitors, Kumba emerges from the shadows just as before. The massive gorilla moves with purpose, his wide chest rising and falling in rhythm. His pace is steady, unhurried, as though drawn by invisible threads. Emily leans forward, her eyes glued to the screen. The forest thickens around him, moonlight flickering through swaying branches. Then, at the edge of a small clearing, Kumba slows. The camera pans out. There, barely visible behind overgrown vines, stands an old, weathered cabin. Gasps escape from the team. "Is that?" one whispers. The cabin sits hidden, long forgotten, its wooden walls lean with age, paint stripped by rain and time. A broken lantern hangs by the door, the roof sags under years of neglect. It looks abandoned, empty, lifeless. But Kumba doesn't hesitate. He approaches gently, massive hands brushing aside low branches. His breath fogs in the cool air. He pauses at the doorframe, lowering his head slightly as if showing respect. Then, with delicate care, he touches the door with his knuckles. 3 soft taps, a quiet rhythm. The team watches in stunned silence. Inside, faint movement stirs. A dim light flickers behind cracked curtains. Emily's breath catches. He's not alone. The cameras zoom closer. Through the dirty glass, a shadowed figure sits in a worn armchair. An elderly man, frail but upright, his thin hands resting on his lap. His face is partially obscured, but his eyes reflect the camera's light. And then he smiles. Kumba emits a low, guttural rumble. Not a warning, a greeting. The man slowly rises from the chair, leaning on a cane. He moves toward the door but stops short, standing just inside. Their eyes meet across the threshold, one human, one beast. Yet the bond between them is unmistakable. Emily's chest tightens. She whispers, "He knows him." The radio crackles softly, but no one speaks. No orders, no panic, only awe. Every night, Kumba escapes, not to run wild, not to flee captivity, but to visit this man, to sit quietly in the clearing, to share silent company under the stars. Shock ripples through the staff. The questions swirl. Who is this man? How does Kumba know him? And why has this secret reunion been happening right under their noses? But one thing is certain. This isn't random. This is love. Morning breaks heavy with silence. The team gathers at the forest edge, hearts pounding. They've watched for nights. They've seen the visits. Now it's time to step inside. Emily takes the lead. The dirt crunches beneath their boots as they move cautiously toward the old cabin. Vines coil up its walls like veins. The air smells of damp earth and old wood. Emily glances at the others, her voice low but steady. No sudden moves. Her hand trembles slightly as she raises it and knocks softly on the weathered door. It creaks open with a long groan. Inside, the light is dim but warm. A small fire crackles weakly in the hearth. The man sits near the flames, his face illuminated by the soft glow. His eyes lift, calm and unsurprised, as though he's been expecting them. He is thin, frail even, but his gaze holds strength. Wisps of silver hair frame his weathered face. He clutches a worn blanket in his lap, and resting beside him on a small stool is a simple photograph. A young man cradling an infant gorilla. Emily's breath hitches. That's Kumba. The man's voice cracks as he speaks, rough from years of disuse. He never forgot. Tears prick at Emily's eyes. Who are you? The man smiles faintly, lowering his gaze to the fire. I'm Mark. Gasps ripple through the team. Mark, the name they've heard only in old staff logs. Years ago, Mark had been Kumba's original caretaker, hand-raising him when the young gorilla was orphaned. They had been inseparable. But after personal struggles, financial ruin, and a series of misfortunes, Mark left both the zoo and the world behind. The staff assumed he had disappeared for good. But Kumba remembered. Emily's voice wavers. How did he find you? Mark shakes his head gently. I don't know. I never called him. I never reached out. But one night he appeared, sat right there. He gestures toward the doorway where Kumba always waits. And every night since he comes back. Emotion swells in the small room. No one speaks. The silence is thick, filled with awe, heartbreak, and something deeper, an unspoken understanding of the loyalty that exists between them. Mark continues, voice barely a whisper. I raised him like my own child. I thought I'd lost everything, but not him. Somehow, he never let go. Emily wipes her cheek, overwhelmed. She looks out the open door toward the forest clearing. As if on cue, a familiar shadow emerges from the trees. Kumba's towering form moves gently into the clearing, his dark eyes scanning the cabin. The team steps aside. Kumba stops at the threshold, lowering his head respectfully. A soft rumble escapes his chest, a greeting filled with affection. Mark smiles, eyes glassy, and extends a trembling hand toward his old friend. "You came back again, didn't you, boy?" Kumba leans in, his enormous hand resting softly near Mark's feet. Man and gorilla sit in quiet reunion, wordless, but perfectly understood. In that fragile moment, one truth becomes undeniable. This was never about escape. It was always about love. The air feels heavier now, not with danger, but with fragile trust. The team stands outside the cabin, hearts pounding. The bond between man and gorilla is undeniable, but the man is weak, and time is running out. Emily steps forward first, keeping her voice calm. "Mark, we need to help you. You're not well." Mark's breathing is shallow. He nods faintly but keeps one hand resting on Kumba's massive arm. The gorilla rumbles softly, sensing the tension. His dark eyes flick between Emily and Mark, searching for meaning in every movement. "We don't want to take him from you," Emily whispers, "but we need to take care of you." Kumba shifts slightly, his massive frame blocking the doorway, protective but not aggressive. His chest rises and falls with slow, heavy breaths. Every instinct in him warns of change, of strangers approaching his family. The team freezes, muscles tight. One wrong step could shatter everything. Mark raises a weak hand, gently brushing Kumba's shoulder. His voice trembles but remains soothing. "It's okay, boy. They're friends." The gorilla's nostrils flare. He grunts softly, eyes narrowing but never leaving Mark's face. His muscles stay tense, but the affection in his gaze never wavers. Emily takes another step. "Mark, can you stand?" With effort, Mark pushes himself upright, wobbling on unsteady legs. The cane in his hand trembles. Emily reaches out instinctively, but stops herself, not wanting to alarm Kumba. Mark steadies himself, leaning gently into Kumba's side for support. The gorilla lowers his head, almost bowing, letting Mark rest against him. His giant hand steadies the old man's back, cradling him like he once did as a tiny infant in Mark's arms. The team watches, breath held. Every movement feels like walking on glass. Emily signals quietly behind her. A medical team waits in the distance, their gurney ready, standing still like statues. No one dares approach yet. Mark whispers again, his voice like a lullaby. "It's all right, Kumba. I'll be okay. You've taken care of me long enough." Kumba grunts, a low, mournful sound. His massive eyes glisten under the soft cabin light. For a long moment, he simply stares at Mark, as though memorizing his face. Then, slowly, Kumba releases his gentle hold and steps back. The entire team exhales in silent relief. No shouting, no rushing, only careful, respectful movement. Emily and two medics step forward, slipping beside Mark and easing him onto the waiting stretcher. Kumba watches, his body tense, but his mind trusting. As they wheel Mark out of the cabin, Kumba follows close behind, massive and silent, like a guardian escorting his family. The forest clears way for them as the strange procession moves carefully toward the waiting ambulance. At the ambulance door, Mark reaches out one last time. His hand brushes against Kumba's fur, voice hoarse but warm. "Thank you, my boy." The gorilla grunts softly in reply. He doesn't fight. He doesn't resist. He simply watches, knowing somehow this is part of the journey. Morning light breaks gently over the zoo. The air feels lighter now. The tension is gone, replaced by something softer. Every day a quiet routine begins, and Kumba waits. He sits by the visitor window, massive frame resting calmly against the reinforced glass. His dark eyes scan the pathway beyond, ears perking at every approaching footstep. Staff members watch from a distance, knowing exactly who he's waiting for. Then, like clockwork, Mark appears. The old man moves carefully, still frail but stronger than before. Leaning on his cane, accompanied by a nurse, he makes his way to the glass enclosure. The moment Kumba sees him, his entire posture changes. His shoulders lift, his chest rises, and his deep rumble echoes, softly filled with warmth. Mark smiles, settling into the wooden bench positioned just feet from Kumba. His voice, though raspy, carries the same tenderness as years ago. "Hello, my boy." Kumba presses one large hand gently against the glass. Mark lifts his palm, placing it against the same spot. Man and gorilla sit like this for long moments, speaking a language without words. Around them, life at the zoo continues quietly. Visitors pass by, unaware of the deeper story unfolding before their eyes. The staff, however, understand the sacredness of these meetings. No reporters swarm, no cameras invade, only trust remains. Emily watches from afar, her chest full with emotion. She had fought to keep this moment protected, kept the media at bay, kept the story private. This wasn't for headlines. This was for them. Each day Mark shares soft words through the glass, stories from their past, gentle reassurances. And Kumba listens, swaying slightly, his deep grunts matching Mark's cadence. The connection between them hasn't dimmed, it simply evolved. Weeks turn into months. The visits continue like ritual, steady and unbroken. The staff makes quiet adjustments, ensuring Mark always has his bench, always has his time. No rules interfere here, only respect for a bond that defies explanation. The zoo itself changes, not by expansion or publicity, but by the deep sense of reverence growing among the staff. They've witnessed something most never do, loyalty that outlasted distance, memory that never faded, love that remained untouched by time. Emily reflects as she watches them. She understands now this isn't just a man and an animal, this is family. For Kumba, the world feels whole again. For Mark, each visit brings peace after years of isolation. And for those lucky enough to witness these silent reunions, a simple truth settles deep in their hearts. Love, once given, never truly fades. Kumba's story reminds us that some connections go far beyond words, beyond species, rooted in loyalty, memory, and silent devotion. While the world may never know their full story, for Kumba and Mark, none of that matters. What they share is simple, pure, and eternal. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. We'll see you next time for more powerful stories that remind us how deeply animals and humans can be connected.